Hey.
Hello.
Welcome to yet another episode of Tabletop Trio. I'm Bob,
I'm Joe.
I'm Bronson.
and we have a very special guest with us this week, the one and only Pete Torriello. Pete, you're a podcaster, reporter, microphone enthusiast, just you name it, you do it all.
I do it all.
And we're super excited to have you on
Thank
with us
you.
this week.
Thank you for having me on.
Got a great show lined up for you. We're going to talk about Pete, talk about his podcast, and just different things in general with, you know, hobbies, podcasting, microphones, all that sort of thing.
The huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. But before we jump into that, how was your guys' week? Had some fun this week.
Yeah.
Pretty good week.
Not bad.
Allie's birthday was this week, which is awesome. Joe's birthday is on Saturday. Also awesome. So everybody wish Joe a happy birthday in the chat.
Yes.
Pretty please.
And today's actually my mom's birthday.
Is it?
Happy birthday to your mom.
All them Valentine's babies.
Today's Phil's birthday. He's not watching because he's out doing birthday things. But
makes
happy
sense.
birthday, Phil.
We'll clip it. I'll send it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I met Pete through our neighborhood because it turns out he lives like 2 blocks over.
How cool is that? That there are 2 podcasts coming out of our neighborhood.
I'm sure there's more. It's just we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I remember we started this and we were talking, and then I started going through the neighborhood as I always do, and I see the Sonic Boomers pop up, and I was like, wait, what? And then I started looking, and I was like, Bob, there's another podcast. He's like, wait, I know that voice. I was like, I know that
I've been
guy.
hearing his voice every day for like 25 years.
So, yeah, I was gonna ask. So you are not only a podcaster of the Sonic Boomers podcast, but you are the voice of news and traffic through how many different states is your voice transmitted?
It's over a good portion of the New York metropolitan area, going all the way out to eastern Long Island, up into Connecticut. I actually did morning drive traffic on 1010 Winds for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And that ended, I guess, about 3 years ago. And I've been on New Jersey 101.5, and I can't believe this myself because I really didn't know how long. And I had asked Bob Williams, who's the morning traffic guy. I started when they moved Bob from our studio in Rutherford, New Jersey, down to New Jersey 101.5 down there. And I guess that's what, Ewing down there?
Yeah, Ewing, Trenton, like right on the line.
And when Bob went down there, I wound up doing the midday traffic with Dennis and Judy. And I was on the phone with Bob the other day, and I was like, Bobby, when did you move down to 101.5? Oh, Pete, that was 25 years ago. I was like, son of a bitch. So, yeah, I've been on there for 25 years. I've been on this really cool AAA station up in Westchester County called The Peak, 107.1 The Peak. And I've been with them for 16 years.
Wow. So how do you keep all of your like traffic? Like, how do you know which one you're about to say the traffic for? Have you messed up and said like this is 101.5 but it was the wrong station?
I almost never do.
You said almost.
In the early, I've done it. In the early days, we would just have like flip cards, and you would have the station, the call letters, and what you needed and what the out queue was. And when I first started with our company, we actually started out as something called Shadow Traffic. And then we became Metro Traffic, and then we were bought by iHeartMedia, and now we're part of their Total Traffic Network system. But when we started, all of your out queues were on flip cards, and I didn't like flip cards. I always considered them to be a crutch. So I made it my goal to just memorize all of the out queues, right? And when I first started doing traffic, I was doing 26 traffic reports an hour.
Wow.
Jeez.
It was, I look at it now and I'm like, how the hell did I do that? you know, and you have to change hats for different stations. Some stations want you to be very personality oriented. Some of them want you to just get on, do the traffic, and get the hell off, and don't have any personality. So you're always changing hats. And I had a bunch of stations out on Long Island. One was WGSM, one was WGBB, one was WGLI.
Oh, no.
And I'm on WGLI, and the morning guy on there, his name was Paul Durr. I think he was Jim Hunter. He used to be on CBS FM. I think he used the name Jim Hunter. But when I worked with him, he used his real name, Paul Derschel. And he did the morning show. And I get to the end of the traffic report, and I'm, that shadow traffic, I'm Pete Torriello on WG...
something.
something. And he, to break my balls, he goes, yes. And I'm like, it's one of those damn G stations here. I'm like, why do you guys put a G in everything out here? Don't you know any other letters?
Next time, just to make them look bad. On WG.
You're
Sorry,
breaking
I'm
up.
going
You're
through a
breaking up,
tunnel.
Pete. Yeah.
Must be something wrong with your tower.
Oh, that's wild.
Because I've noticed when I was working at a previous radio station up in New Brunswick for I guess Beasley now, Total Traffic also handled traffic for us.
Yeah.
And one of the traffic reporters, like all of their stuff was pre-recorded and all that. And one of the traffic reporters, was going, oh, and here on WDHA, and it wasn't with DHA.
Right.
And our program director was also the like afternoon host, and he goes, do you want to try that again? This is Magic 98.3. And she goes, yeah.
Oof.
I think that was the only time I've ever heard like one of those like happen, and especially with like the out cues with us, because it's traffic every 15 minutes. Next report is
Right.
whatever. Like I'm sure that also had to kind of throw you for a loop as well. Like just with like, okay, next report is okay, it's 8:18 is the next one. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're looking up at the clock like, where am I? You kind of lose track of time, and you're like, where the hell am I on the clock? And you're looking up like, okay, next report at 8:18 on New Jersey 101.5.
So how far ahead of time do they give you the traffic update? It's like a couple minutes before, or is it like?
It is always in front of you. I can't say too much about how we do it because it's proprietary and they'll kill me.
I think I see a sniper in the tree out there.
Yeah. But it's always in front of you. And I have a screen in front of me, and every radio station that I do, all of the data that I need is pre-entered into the screen. And so basically, if I'm doing New Jersey 101.5, I have a tab for that. And I will just click on that tab, and everything that I need is in that tab. If I'm doing my station up in Westchester, if I'm doing the peak, I click on that tab, and it will only show me what I need for the peak.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That makes sense. I always thought about it. I'm like, is there just a guy that's like, there's a car accident?
Yeah.
It just happened. Just put it in.
Stick it in there somewhere.
Yeah, we have that. We have entree to a camera network, and it's really a compendium of a lot of different sources. But a lot of the stuff we actually have producers, and their job is to, as I say, get the data. The announcers create the poetry and the prose, and the producers actually get the data and put it into the computer for us to work from. And then what I do is I will cherry pick what stories I'm going to run.
Ah.
Okay.
Oh, so there's more than.
Oh, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. For a 60-second traffic report, sometimes you've got 2 minutes worth of stuff. And now you have to decide, well, who am I going to piss off? Who's stuck out there on such and such road that I'm going to throw on the cutting room floor because I have to get out of here in 1:10.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I never thought about that, because I know they always. Because I grew up. I was telling Bob. Every weekend, we were by the pool. We had the rock speaker things. And my dad, 101.5's on. Big Joe Henry, that's it. And I'm like, I wonder if he ever did the news during the weekends, if I would have heard that. Because this is I was a kid. But like all the songs stuck. Like I know all the songs. I mean, it was probably like the same 70 songs every weekend. But like I know him.
Can confirm.
So I was like, how did you get into this?
Traffic or radio in general?
Both?
Both.
Well,
Okay.
typically you get into traffic by driving around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or eight.
Yeah, that'll do it for you. That'll do it for you. Honestly, traffic was the last damn thing that I wanted to do. I wanted from the time that I was a kid, I wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a radio DJ. I wanted to be the next Cousin Brucey. I wanted to be the next Harry Harrison. And I did it for quite a few years. Before I got into traffic, I was a music director and a program director. But the trouble was, it wasn't paying the bills for a guy with a young family. And I did disc jockeying for a few years. And I was like, this ain't cutting it. This ain't cutting it. And a buddy of mine that I went to college with was working for what was then Shadow Traffic. And I was the program director of what used to be WERA in Plainfield, New Jersey. And I was the morning guy in the PD. And this guy, Bernie Wagenblast, and yes, that is his real name.
Wow. I was just going to ask you that.
Bernie Wagenblast was our traffic guy. And he knew that I was very unhappy at WERA because it wasn't paying. And he said, hey, we have an opening here. Somebody's leaving. Why don't you audition for it? So I went in for the audition, and they hired me. That was 1982. And I really only planned to stay for a couple of years. Fell in love with the job. And because I was in AFTRA.
What's that?
That's the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists.
Gotcha.
That's our union. It's actually SAG-AFTRA now, Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA. So we had pretty good contracts, and the money just increased every year. And after 40 years, took me 40 years, but it's been quite lucrative. And so it was probably a good decision on my part to stay. But I said to my wife, I'll put a year or two in, and then I'm done. I don't want to do traffic. I want to get back and be a DJ. Hey, cousins. Hey. But I really fell in love with the job. And so here I am, 40 years into the gig.
That's wild.
Remind me to put an NPC in one of our D&D games with the last name Dragon Blast.
Oh.
Yeah.
What'd you say? AFTRA?
AFTRA.
Astra Dragon Blast.
We are,
That's
yeah,
what I'm going to
after,
do.
Yeah, I started in radio in grade school. We used to do stuff on the PA system. And then when I got to high school, when I got to Cedar Ridge High School, we did the same thing. We had a radio station, and we used to record shows. They would run from 7:30 in the morning to 8, and we would play them while everybody was waiting in the hallway for class to start.
Oh, wow.
And every day we had a different music format. So we had an R&B day, we had a country music day, we had a top 40 day, we had a folk music day.
Our high school knew better than to let us go on the loudspeaker.
And it happened like twice.
Yep.
3 years apart. They thought maybe, and then
Yeah.
it was a bad mistake.
And I used to do the announcements.
That we did
The morning
have.
announcements.
We did have the
afternoon.
announcements.
And the afternoon announcements were fun because you felt that you had such power because you had, the tone would go off at the end of the school day. And the tone was fired automatically. But during the announcements, you could stop the tone. You could override it and then play it manually.
Oh.
Right? So it would be like Friday afternoon. And I would be like, and those are the announcements for this afternoon. I'm Pete Torriello. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You can bet your ass that several kids were just like, one more second,
I'm
kicking
going to
his
kill
ass in the
him.
parking
I'm
lot.
going to go
Yes.
in there
one
and
more.
I'm going to kick Torriello's ass if he doesn't push that button.
That's fantastic.
It's so funny how like that, because that's kind of how I was starting with me as well. Like elementary school, I would do the announcements and all that. And then I actually wound up getting my first ever like broadcasting job doing Little League like PA announcing. So it'd be, now batting number 1, Bill. And like that's literally all it was. And it's like all those little like kind of starting places that like
Yeah.
you don't really think of as broadcasting.
We all have to
is.
start somewhere. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I no experience. I just like audio stuff, and then turns out I'm pretty natural behind a microphone. It happens.
I used to sing and I'm an attention whore. So
There you go. It works out.
Yep.
You know the technology. I feel like mic distance for most people is like number. Does that bother you when you go to public places and people use the microphone wrong? Because it drives me insane.
God.
Like we'll be at work and like the HR people like hold the mic all the way down here and then wonder why no one hears it. And then they look over at me and I'm like,
that's like when I used to play venues. One of the reasons I went mic shopping, like I was telling you earlier, is because I didn't want to put my mouth on a microphone that several other thousand people had used.
You don't know
Like in the-
whose mouth has been on that mic.
like no shit. I was always terrified if I was using a stage mic that was like that belonged to the venue. Am I gonna get fucking herpes if I'm like, "Bleh." Come on, like, so everybody would be like, "Why do you bring your own microphone?" And it's like, because I know how you're supposed to use it, you dumbass.
I used to teach church lectors,
Hmm.
right? And you always get this. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Let me tell you, synagogues too.
spot on. That was spot on.
And I'm sitting there in the pew, and I'm like, I'm starting to shake. and so when I would work with the lectors,
Come
I
over
would
and
say,
splash you with
you know,
holy water.
ladies and gentlemen, some of you have the idea that the microphone will work if it is in the same state that you're in. And then you tell them you have to be right on top of the microphone. Just eat the mic, just a couple of inches is where you need to be. And then you also get people like, you'll have like some kind of a program going on in the church. And when the program's over, they pass the mic around. And so tell us what you got out of this program. And they start here. They got a handheld mic. They start here, and then they're like, and I also want to say this. Or they have the mic, and the mic is going farther down. Right?
Yeah. It's like you start to relax so your arm goes down, but it's like...
The thing that always makes me laugh is when you see somebody holding a microphone and they're talking like, no. The mic does that for
mic
you.
does the work.
You speak normally.
Or here's another one. You're watching a show, TV show. You'll see it a lot of times on like sitcoms. And it's a guy's a disc jockey in the show, or like a Fraser Crane or something, and they're talking into the wrong part of the microphone. They'll very often you'll have a mic like this. This is what we call an end address mic, and you'll see it up this way. Right? And obviously, as you can all see, you're not going to hear shit.
Yeah.
But on TV shows, they always talk into the wrong mic. And my poor wife, I'll be like, I'm gonna break a blood vessel. You don't talk into the mic like that.
So is that or like, what are you doing? Why are you not wearing headphones? Where?
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah.
What do you mean Johnny Fever's not wearing headphones on WKRP? What?
I remember as a kid, because like I said, my dad was always doing. So my dad started with karaoke in like the 90s. They used to have friends and family over, and then it was like 4 a.m. and they're still going. And like they started off with like a little surround sound system, just hook it up with the DVD, you're fine. And then it got to the point where my dad had 2 18-inch 400 watt each PVs hooked to 2 10-inch 400 watt each tweeters, going to like a freaking Mackie 1200 watt head. And my room was on that wall. So like, yeah, I had to be like the adult. And I'm like, I'm trying to sleep. I have school tomorrow. I have school. It's like, but I always remember as a kid, like early on, because my dad was like, oh, just try to sing. I'm like, I don't want to sing. And like, that still sticks with me. It's like, if I'm not perfect, I'm not going to do it in public. Not going to happen.
Not me.
So my dad would always get me to sing, and then I was watching, and then you had to learn. So I was the kid who always had to set up karaoke because I was the oldest boy. So my dad was like, go set up the mics and everything. So I'd be the one running all the cables and checking all the microphones and doing all that stuff. So I learned really young, like, oh, you got to get really close if you want to sound good. If you're far away, you're not going to hear it right. It's going to sound weird. And so like that was my intro to like audio, like live audio, was just setting up karaoke for my parents so that they can get hammered with their friends and sing for several hours. Like to the point where there were a couple times where it was like, we're going to go get bagels. I'm like, you guys are still here?
My introduction into audio setup was just because when I was in bands, there were so many venues that just didn't know how to do it right at all. So I'd get there and we'd set everything up on stage, and the drummer was in like a back corner facing the wrong way, and the guitar stacks, like the speakers they let you use, were like pointed at each other, and the PA speakers were like one on the floor in front of you pointed outward. And it's like, okay, first of all, I do need to hear myself. It's very important.
I need that. They don't need that.
And it's not an ego thing. Like, I need to tell if I'm singing in the right fucking note, first of all. And then, like, I'd go around and I'd be doing the sound checks before every show. So that evolved into me getting my own soundboards and my own effects boards and teaching my guitar players how not to point their cabinets and making sure the drummer wasn't blocked by things. Like, I don't know, for some reason, it was like a quintessential thing. We'd show up and see the drum set up behind something. And it's like, why? Who thought that would be a good idea? What part of your brain thinks, let's just block all this sound, it'll be great?
Drummers aren't that important. They just keep the beat. It's fine. We don't need to hear. The rest of the people don't need to hear it. You need to hear it. It's fine.
So have the drummer stop playing and watch where this goes.
Yeah. Quick, listen to the bass player for the timing. Oh, shit. Sorry, bass players, but also not. Yeah, but that now has just devolved into whenever I go to a party that's not at Joe's house, I have the coolest PA system.
I have too many. I have like one of my neighbors was like blasting music at some point, and my wife does not like loud music, which is why I don't have giant PA set up everywhere. So it got to the point where I was like, it's been like 3 hours. I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to go pick up some speakers, and we're going to show our neighbors what loud actually means. Cause this is nothing to me. And she's like, please don't. If
bring out the heavy artillery.
Yeah. She's like, if you're really I'm gonna leave. Like, I'm just gonna go somewhere because I don't want to deal with that.
And then he's in the Facebook chat with us, and we're going, do it.
I'm like, should I bring out the 1200 watts, or should I just go all for it and get like the 3000 watt set up? Like,
I'm going to test how good their window seals are.
It's more like I'm going to test how good my window seals are.
Yours are new.
Yeah. Doesn't take that many watts. So I don't know. I always grew up with like, how many speakers can I get? How loud could they get? At one point, my car, I had 3,500 RMS watts running through my car. My mom used to hear me coming, like about a quarter mile away.
Whenever Joe would come over to my house, he'd never have to call me when he got there. I would just
heard
the
him
house
coming.
would start shaking, and I'd just go let him in.
That is more power than some of the radio stations that I worked for. Really, two of them were 500 watt stations.
Wow.
I talked to Bob about that. So like one of my favorite stations that I still actively listen to because it's the best way to get new music is 92.3 over at Seton Hall, the pirate radio.
Oh, 89.5. Yeah.
Yeah, 89.5.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's
it's been a
where I
while.
started.
92.3 hasn't been rocking
No, they changed
12
it back.
years. Did they?
Yeah, it keeps going back and forth.
It's all news now.
It's news
Oh,
now.
now it's all
It's
news?
1010 wins now.
It just keeps changing.
Yeah, 1010 wins went FM.
So, yeah,
and
we-
it's on
89.5.
92.3.
When we were kids, 92.3 K-Rock was the station.
Yeah.
And then it was 95.9 The Rat.
It's always.
Yeah, I used to work for the Rat before it was the Rat.
Really?
It was actually the first. I started at WSOU.
Oh,
really?
As a student at Seton Hall. And my wife and I met there. She was also a DJ and a board op.
Oh.
I was a DJ, news guy, board op. and we were married at Seton Hall. And my first commercial full-time job in radio was at what eventually became the Rat. Back when I was there, I started there when I got out of college in '76, which makes me none of your business years old. But I started at, was called WADB.
So that ended up.
It was owned by Adamant and Dorothy Brown. And we could do an entire show on Adamant Brown because he was one of the weirdest guys that I've ever met in my life.
Well, you can't say that and not give us an example.
You know,
Yeah.
he used to drill his own teeth.
Damn.
He had,
I didn't think you were going that hard.
he had a dental kit. And one day I saw these picks and these drills, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And
Was
I said,
he a dentist?
No, he was an engineer.
Same thing.
He was a PE. He was a professional engineer. But he
Bronson, don't get any ideas.
Yeah.
but
Stop
he
it.
Listen.
he also used to talk. Our station was automated, and
Huh.
today, and Bob, you'll back me up on this. You can automate a station on a laptop today. You don't need. But when I was down there in the late '70s, automation was these big reels of tape, these 10-inch reels of tape, and you might have 5 or 6 decks playing these reels. Because one might be the up-tempo songs, one would be mid-tempo, down-tempo, some would be the vocals. And then we had these big, what we called the cartridge carousel. It was a big revolving drum, and you would put tape cartridges in it. And that's where you would play the news from, and the commercials, and the jingles, and it was a huge piece of machinery. And the guy that owned WADB automated the station, and he would come in and he would talk to the automation and ignore you. And the guy would sign all his memos. He never signed a memo that did not end with the phrase, "or you will be fired."
Ooh, I hate bosses like that.
Have a great day,
or you will be fired. And you know, his name was Adamant Brown. He is long gone. And when he would show up, you would see his car. He had this big Lincoln Continental. And he would park right at the door of the station. The station back in those days was in a house. And the sales offices were on the lower level, and the studio and the transmitter were up on the upper level. And he would park right at the front door so that he didn't have to walk far. Right? And the joke in the station was, if you saw like my car there, or you saw Lee Greenwood's car, or any of the announcers, they'd say, "Oh, Pete's here, Lee is here, Ken is here." But when you saw that Cadillac there, you would say, "Oh, shit, Brown is here." It wasn't Adam. It wasn't Mr. Brown. It was, "Oh, Brown is here."
Oh, that's wild. So that became
Became the Rat.
in what, 90 something, or when did the Rat turn into?
Boy, I don't remember when.
Yeah, 'cause as far as I could remember, it's been the Rat,
Yeah.
but I don't know when that actually
In
happened.
fact, the guy that is the overnight guy on the Rat, Uncle Leo, Lee Greenwood, Lee was with me in 1976 when it was WADB.
So he's been there a long
He
time.
is there a long, long time.
Wow.
He was the first announcer that Adamant Brown hired.
Hmm.
And there was a funny story about Lee. He always did the overnight show. Very laid back guy. Very laid back. And I remember we bought new automation. And the automation was not working right. And a song would come on, and 3 other songs would come on and start playing at the same time. And you would have to hit the panic button to dump everything and go to the next event. And so I was coming in, I think I was doing the morning show, and Lee was just finishing up the all-night show. And I'm driving in, and I hear we come out of a commercial cluster, and 3 songs start playing at the same time. And then I hear silence. And I hear the mic open, and Lee goes, "Just so you know, this is not my fault."
I feel like radio has really changed.
You know, it's funny because things like that still happen. We probably about 3 years ago now, my station, we just switched over to a new automation system called Zeta. Super simple. It's you can even download an app and literally run the station and run your show from your phone. Super, intuitive and all that. We had to switch over automation systems very quickly because there was some kind of like hack or something that affected like the music libraries and the song libraries and all that. That day, our morning show host could not go to commercial break at all for 4 hours straight.
Wow.
I don't know how he did it, but was able to talk from 6 a.m. straight through till 10 a.m. by himself.
No music, no
No
nothing.
music, no nothing, no break. Barely could even take callers.
Wow.
And it was just him talking. I don't know how he did it. And then we finally got the new automation system set up like right at 10 o'clock, and I was in to produce the midday show, and we were only able to get like the basic beds and the legal IDs to work. Other than that, had no commercials, no nothing. Finally got it in, and then I had the first music shift with the new system. I go in, I hit launch on the first song. All 3 songs start playing at once.
That seems to be a running trend.
A little Easter egg.
and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, well.
This mashup brought to you by.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, thankfully it's still 7:03, so hopefully here's fast traffic. But luckily, like, aside from that, I think I've only ever had it glitch on me like that, like, maybe one other time.
The thing about automation is when it works, it's terrific.
Oh, yeah.
And when it shits the bed, it is catastrophic.
Yes.
Can the FCC come after you for that kind of thing? Like if your broadcast screws up,
No.
they don't care about the content in as long as it's not like breaking
as
laws.
long as you don't use the 7 deadly words.
What are the 7 deadly words?
I'm not even going to say them.
George Carlin.
George Carlin. The 7 deadly
I
words.
know I wanted you to say
Yeah,
that.
no, I ain't going to do
I
it.
love George Carlin.
I'm gonna-
Mr. Conductor's my
I'm
homeboy.
pretty free with the language, but I ain't that free. That's the thing you got to steer clear of. It's a lot of legal stuff. It's commercial sponsorship identification, payola, plugola, a lot of ethics stuff. I know our company requires us every year to do ethics training.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the kind of stuff that'll get you in trouble. Screwing around with a contest.
Does anybody at 101.5 have to do that? Because I feel like they could benefit.
I feel like I've heard some stories about that, Bob.
I really enjoy my job there.
It is a wonderful company, and I'm so happy to be employed by them. That's why I haven't said anything about my job. There is a radio portion of my job. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
But he's also not on it, so,
I have to say that our company, iHeartMedia, I think they're a great company.
they're everywhere.
They are everywhere, and I really think that they do a good job taking care of their people.
That's
You know,
good.
And make no mistake about it, it is a business. Radio is a business. And every so often, there's going to be cost cutting, belt tightening. But I think under Bob Pittman's leadership, it really is very distasteful, I think, to him to cut staff. And it's like, if we don't have to, we won't. That is the feeling that I get. As they let me go next week. It's okay. I'll take the severance.
That's really the crux of the difference between any good job and bad job, right? Every job is still a job.
Yeah.
Unless you're part of the 0.001% of people that absolutely fucking love their job and they couldn't be any happier. They're a pig in shit all day. Everybody else realizes they are still at a job, right? But how the company treats you is going to make or break whether you want to stay there, how happy you are. They say that people don't leave jobs because of the job. People leave jobs because of their bosses, right? The last 2 or 3 jobs, my direct boss has been great. The people over them have been absolutely fucking numbskulls. And that's why I left. And this job I have now is the first job where that's ever not been the case. The owner of the company treats us fantastic. All my bosses treat us great. All the people I work with on every side treat us great. And that's really, if you're ever in charge of people, making the extra effort to not make your employees feel like shit really does more for you in a monetary sense than you think.
Yeah, I really like iHeart. I know personally they've been very good to me. And I think they've been very good to our shop. I've worked for other people in my career that, especially early in my career. Well, I worked for some real bastards.
Well, I know, so radio used to be all these different channels owned by different people doing all this different stuff. And I feel like lately, I turned the Rat on for a little while and they said, the Rat powered by, and I forget what company they were now. And I'm like, oh, they got bought too. So I feel like radio now is kind of just a handful of companies that just really own most things.
Yeah. There are the mom and pop radio station is a very, very hard thing to find today. And a lot of us started, certainly my generation, we started in the mom and pop stations. But now, even the locals, it used to be, the big stations, the WABCs, the WORs,
Right.
They were owned by big corporate entities. Yeah. And then you had all these mom and pop stations. And in the last 20 years or so, even the mom and pop stations now are owned by big corporate entities.
I understand, I remember hearing Z100 was iHeart, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. They're one of the biggest towers in the East Coast. It's insane. You could hear them from Cape May. I get it. But the Rat barely moved. It's some of Jersey, not even all of Jersey. I get up to Plainfield, even right around here. There's a really oldie station somewhere around here. So you get mixes between hard rock and then and it's very weird. It's jarring. but it's crazy that they got bought. Yeah.
The thing is, with a radio signal, a lot of that is that you, as the station owner, whether you're mom and pop or you're Thunder Corporation, technically you kind of have to play the card that you've been dealt. Because the stations you're hemmed in there. Those frequencies are hemmed in there. Some stations are going to have bigger signals than others. And a lot of this is really by government fiat.
Oh, so that was rolling around to the WSOU. Whenever I listen to them, they are by and large way lower than every radio station.
Thank you.
And
it's been something.
I don't know
and
why.
And I still have friends that run WSOU, and I don't tell them how to run their radio station. But
just tell them the volume knob.
One of the, I know exactly what needs to be done.
They don't have the power.
I know exactly what needs to be done, and I'm like, God damn it! I'll go up to the transmitter room and turn the thing, and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the modulation is very low. And if you do A/B comparisons, you set up a bunch of stations on your radio and you push button, they're the lowest.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For a station that plays the hardest rock, the loudest rock,
and that's the thing that
and
always
it's the
gets,
lowest station on the dial. And maybe there's a reason for it. If there is, I don't know. And I'm not going to tell them how to run their engineering.
Yeah.
But
so I can at least go over.
When you brought that up, I started to smile because I was
every time because I'm in my car, I keep the volume all the way up because I want to hear it, and then I switch to the Rat, and I'm like,
yeah.
I can go over at least a little bit of why some stations limit their output power. Usually comes back to material cost of what's powering that tower. So typically, because of FCC regulations, you have to have some kind of lossless solution somewhere in there, right? Like a power backup, or at least we do, because you want to avoid downtime. You have to explain to the FCC every time you have downtime, right? So
yeah, you have to log it.
Yeah. So in order to prevent downtime, a lot of companies do a UPS backing up the power transmission, and those things get real fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Like a 15 kVA Vertiv EXS, which is like the smallest 3-phase UPS that you can get to cover an IT room, is like $35,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a baseline one. That's without any crazy features, blah, blah, blah. Some of these like big 60 and 100 kVA UPSs, you could be throwing them in for like $150,000, $200,000 just to get 30 minutes of battery time.
I feel like a college has the money.
Colleges notoriously don't put money where they're supposed to, especially a public
No.
especially a public college. When I went to Rutgers, they stripped the the labs down because they were erecting a stadium. So we had to learn mechanical engineering, specifically aerospace engineering properties, in a homemade wind tunnel and I cannot stress this enough, homemade pressure vessels stored like 60,000 PSI.
I'm sure it was safe.
That's why he made everybody leave the room when he pulled the lever down, because it was safe.
It's like,
But yeah.
it's like saying, hey, put your hand in this blender and, we'll see what happens.
No. It's a safety blender.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
Safety blender.
It'll sense there's a hand in there and it'll shut itself down.
I like those new table saws that destroy themselves because of that.
Yeah,
when I
pretty
was
cool.
at Seton Hall as a DJ back in the 70s, we had one transmitter. We had no backup.
Mm.
And it was when I first got there in 72, it was an old tube transmitter. And it was big. And it sat, if you were sitting in the master control room, it was directly behind you.
Mm.
So it was hot.
It was warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing every once in a while would shoot arcs. And you would see a kid go flying out of the control room. And it would be, the damn transmitter is shit. It didn't do it a lot. But when it did, it would scare the crap out of you, And I remember there was a big wheel behind it. It looked like something out of an old Frankenstein movie from like the 1930s. More power! Igor, I need more power! And we had this big wheel.
Yes,
And it was a rheostat. And you would turn this wheel and it would adjust the voltage going into the transmitter.
Just manual voltage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would turn this wheel. It looked like something out of Dr. Frankenstein's lab. And
Very much what it is.
we eventually replaced the transmitter with a solid state RCA.
And then everybody missed the arcing.
Remote control. Yeah, never arced. But it also never stayed on frequency. Right? And I remember one morning I was board op there, and we're doing the morning show, and I get a call from Al Bernstein of blessed memory, and Al was at WFDU in Teaneck.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls me, and I'm like, SOU. And he goes, yeah, who am I talking to? I said, Pete Torriello. Pete, it's Al Bernstein over at WFDU in Teaneck. Yeah, Al, what's going on? You're on our frequency. And I'm like, what? We were 89.5. FDU was 89.1.
Oh, so you were way off there.
So we were, and I'm like, are you shitting me? And he's like, no, you're on the monitor. You're coming in on the studio monitors. So,
Oops.
all right. So I signed the station off the air. I said, we have to get off the air, call the chief engineer. And then we had RCA came in, and there was some kind of a problem with the exciter, and which is the thing that actually generates the radio signal and generates the frequency that you're going to be on. And if that's drifting, you've got a big problem. So RCA came in to work on that, and they corrected that. And then another time, the university screwed up, and you're supposed to have what's called 3-phase power going into the transmitter. They dropped one of the phases.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And they blew up the rectifier stacks.
I'll do it.
That's what happens when you have an unbalanced load.
So we're off the air.
Yeah.
And our engineer was a wonderful man named Tom Parnham. He was actually the guy who built WSOU in 1948, just out of the service.
Wow.
But Tom's expertise was in the older gear, tube gear. And solid state gear was not his forte. And when they blew up the rectifier stacks, we were off the air for like days. And I was supposed to be on Saturday for my show. And I remember walking up to the transmitter room, and Mr. Parnham is sitting there. He's on a stool. which is still there, by the way.
Is it?
His workshop was left. He's dead many years, and his workshop was left as is. His license is still on the wall. That stool that he used to sit on is still there. It's kind of like a little tribute
Little museum
to
kind of.
Tom. And I remember walking up there, and he's got the front of the transmitter open, and he's looking inside. And I said, "Mr. Parnham, what's wrong with the transmitter?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Peter J., I don't know."
It appears to be broken.
Yeah. RCA came in, and they were like, "Yeah, the rectifier stacks are blown. What the hell did you do to this transmitter?" But it was the drop of the 3-phase power. Just
Yeah.
blew it right out.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbalanced loads will get you every time.
So, has WSOU always been pirate radio, or did that?
Oh, no. It has been for decades now. When I was there, we had we weren't on the air 24 hours. We used to come on at 7 a.m., and we would go off at 10, and then we would come back on, I think, at 3 p.m. and go off at 1 a.m. And we played all kinds of music. We played progressive rock. We played top 40. We had some nights they played opera. Some nights they played Lithuanian music. They
Just all over the place.
all over the place. There were talk shows. Different school. The business school had a show on there, and
They did that up until I
polka
think
party too.
I remember that. I remember being like 17, 18 years old, tuning into WSOU because I couldn't sleep at like 2 a.m. hearing polka, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Believe it or not, it was one of the biggest shows
Really?
on
Really?
WSOU. When we were monaural when I got there in '72.
What does that mean?
We didn't have stereo.
Ah.
We were just monaural.
Gotcha.
And we wanted to go stereo, and all the boards were mono. The transmitter was mono. The audio processor, everything was mono. And we had to raise $35,000
Wow.
for the equipment. And the guy who did the polka show, Stan Kozakowski was his name.
Of course it was.
His name wasn't Jimmy O'Brien, was it? He was with the business school.
Did someone say polka? I've been summoned. Yes, Phil. Also, happy birthday.
Phil's last name is Ryback. He's also very Polish.
Very sweet man. Stan was a very sweet man. And he said, "You know what? How about if we'll go to the Polish community. We're going to do a week-long polka-bration." As a fundraiser, they raised $35,000
Really?
Jeez.
for the station
That's so
Wow.
cool.
to go stereo.
That's really cool.
I'm glad that my teenage confusion just turned into a very heartwarming story about that. That makes that experience so much better.
Were they still doing church stuff on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
That's always been
Station's owned by the Catholic Church.
really.
Seton Hall University is owned by the Catholic Church,
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Allie went there. My wife went there for a little bit, and they kept trying to push her to take religious classes.
That makes sense because I know I don't know if it was the church or something else. There was like an issue a couple years ago about what music they were playing and this and that.
Every so often, that issue, there was a group recently that was putting up billboards and everything, trying to get the station shut down.
Really?
Wow.
They were coming hard.
Hmm.
They had some big mockers behind them, and they were coming on pretty hard. And they were really bludgeoning the Archdiocese of Newark to shut the station down.
Huh.
And
Because of the metal?
they felt it was satanic.
Yeah.
Oh.
They were also they were giving them shit because they were calling it pirate radio. They didn't want to say that.
But
They didn't want to say
even
that.
though Seton
But
Hall's
that's the-
mascot.
You don't want to say that.
that's the mascot.
Yeah, that's-
What else?
yeah. They didn't want to
And
say.
to their credit, the Archdiocese and Seton Hall University was just like nothing ever came of it.
Hey, buddy,
That's
take
awesome.
a long walk off the shore
Nothing
pier.
ever came of it.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I mean, it's one of the best stations for rock and metal music.
it is one of a kind.
If they just maybe turn the volume up a little bit.
They just need to get closer to the transmitter.
And I thought maybe it's like, I thought maybe it was just like, it's maybe it's just for FM. I'll turn it on, like I'll stream it, and then Nope.
Still low.
Still low.
Yeah. I think the stream is probably driven off the audio processing for
Yeah.
the FM.
So I was like, I know how to bypass it.
And
I'll
the-
just stream it to my car.
and-
Son of a bitch.
And the thing is that with the audio processing, there are presets in there. So if you don't want to go into the processing, into the menus and tweak it yourself, you look for the one on the menu that says loud as hell, and you push
Metal.
it, metal, boom, and you're in business.
Yeah. That's
But why that is, I don't know.
I wonder if there is actually an upper boundary. Like if you have a waveform and you just keep trying to push power through it, but you can't pass a certain threshold, like the top of the waveform will just flatten out and the rest kind of
There is. There's 100% modulation. In the digital world and podcasting, we call it 0 dB FS, 0 dB below full scale. And usually you want to be peaking at around maybe minus 15, maybe not minus 12, minus 9, something in that. So you have some headroom. With FM, the limit is 100% modulation. Okay, some stations go over that. Okay, I used to work for one that did. We used to run about 120% modulation on FM, and we were mono. We were a mono because we were basically a talk station. Our transmitter was at the top of the Empire State Building, and we were right in the middle of the FM band. We were 97.9, and that thing was a friggin' flamethrower.
what
But
was 97.9?
It
Because
was
I remember
back
that.
when I was there. It was WEVD.
I remember
a station
97.5
that
the
speaks your
Hawk.
language.
That I remember.
We had, again, it was owned by the Jewish Daily Forward.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of ethnic programming on there, a lot of Yiddish programming back in the day. We had programming in Italian.
L'chaim.
Later we went to talk shows, different talk shows where Alan Combs did a show with us for a while. Bill Mazer did a show with us for a while. There were a lot of format changes over the years, but man, when we had that FM signal, it was huge. But 100% is the maximum for FM. For AM, it is 100% on negative peaks, 125% on positive peaks.
Why the difference? Is it just because the band is
I
more
I
forgiving?
really don't understand it myself, because there are some engineers who where you have 100 and 125, they call it asymmetric modulation. If it's symmetric, it's 100, 100.
Right.
And I'll be damned if I can hear any difference in it. But there are some engineers that are real big on asymmetric, and others that are like, won't do it.
Now, how does that play into the, I don't know if it's HD FM or FM HD. I know a couple stations, if you have your car and you got the right thing, if you go to like Z100, there's actually like 3 stations. And
It was a good idea, and it doesn't work. Okay.
I know it kind of came and everyone was like, it's the future. And then it just stopped. I think it's just cars now.
The trouble with digital radio signals, and they did it on AM and they did it on FM, and the AM
I did
was
not
even
know
worse.
they did it on AM.
Yeah. When I was on 1010 Winds, we had AM, and then we had a digital signal that rode on the AM signal, and you needed a digital receiver to decode it. It sounded good. Did it sound as good as FM? No, I don't think so, but it sounded pretty good. But the trouble was, if there was no audio in the background, you would always hear, listening on AM, you would hear this. It was this digital noise. And the other trouble was, if you're driving down the highway and you're listening to the AM digital and a truck goes by, the station's gone because the truck blocks it. And the same thing happens even with the FM. You'll hear them say HD1, HD2.
Yep.
These are all digital signals.
Yeah.
They are not robust.
Yeah.
And so if you go behind a big truck, if you go into a low-lying area, the signal is gone. And it's also just a small fraction of what the main transmitter is. So if you have, say, a 10,000-watt transmitter, that digital signal might be 100 watts. It's just, it is not the full power. It is a small fraction.
So I remember...
It's not robust.
And I might be dating myself for the viewers here, but I had a Zune HD, and that was one of the first players that came out that had HD FM. And I was like, it's the future. I listened to radio, and it used your headphones as the antenna.
Antenna, yeah.
That way you can get. But I remember I would be walking, and if I walked through like a right spot and I wouldn't hit the wave, or if something happened, just everything cut out. And then it was kind of like buffering, like regular music, where you would hear it start to come back and then come back. And I'm like, this is radio?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
The HD, it seemed like a good idea on paper,
Yeah.
but for it to work, and I don't think FCC will ever go with it, but I think for it to have a fighting chance, you have to have full parity with the FM signal.
Mm.
I think if you have a 50,000 watt FM signal, you should have a 50,000 watt digital signal. I don't know how to make that work technically. I'm not an engineer, nor do I play one on TV. But to me, I think the more power is the way to go with these digital signals, if you're going to do it at all.
Yeah. I know they say it's supposed to sound so great. It was like, I think it's like 96 KB versus the 50
The
something.
highs might be a little better than on FM, but
The problem was it got so clear that you could hear how bad it was. So it's like I prefer the regular radio when that's hidden in like
it's hidden in the process.
Yeah, it's hidden. When it was digital, it's like, no, I hear everything wrong with that, and now it's just good enough that I want to listen to it somewhere else better. That's I think that was the key for me to not use HD. It was like, it's almost good, but now like I rather play it on like, iTunes, or like at the time Spotify wasn't a thing, but like
The good thing about HD is it gives you variety. It gives you more variety. There's all these little niche formats that you can put on there, but it's got its technical limitations.
yeah.
I know one of the stations I listen to in Philly, their HD signal is just archive music. So songs that they've recorded at their station, at their concerts, all that, and that's on like their HD2 signal.
That's neat.
And it's really cool. But my car doesn't have an HD radio.
Get
So
with
if
the
I'm
times.
driving like a station vehicle, I'll have that on. It's like, oh, cool. Like I get to hear this concert that was recorded back in the 70s, and they'll play like the full concert just out there on their HD2 signal.
I don't even know if my car can get radio signal now that I think about it.
Never tried.
No.
I know the biggest issue, and it's been a thing because I have a Jeep. Jeeps still come with giant antennas, and then I started looking into how come some cars still have giant antennas, and everyone usually now has those little shark things. And it turns out the shark things kind of suck because they're so small. It can't catch the whole waveband, so you have shittier signal always. Unless you're like attached. So the reason, if you see a car that has a big antenna, it's usually trucks and it's usually vans, because those are the populations that statistically still listen to the radio the most. So when you have the bigger antenna, you can catch the whole wave, so you actually get better signal. And I was like, it can't be that. And I remember replacing my old Jeep with a new antenna that was about a quarter of the height because I wanted it smaller. And I went to go turn on the radio, and I was like, I can't get the rat anymore. God damn it. And I started unscrewing the antenna,
Put the old one back
on,
in.
and then it turned right back on. And I was like, yeah, all right,
The
fine.
best antenna on a car radio, to me, is still the telescoping, the big telescoping. I remember my dad's car. My dad had a Pontiac Tempest, 68 Pontiac Tempest. And the radio on that was a Delco radio. And it was a sweet radio. Good sound, great reception. And in the front of the car, over the fender, you had the antenna, and you would pull it up. And the thing would be like 4 feet long when you pull it up. But that thing had reception. You can't get good reception on an antenna
can't
like
do it.
this. And I think even those Shark antennas, I think that might just be for satellite radio, because I think some of the cars actually use they have wires
Oh, in the back.
in the
back
back
of the
window.
Yeah.
I think that might be your FM and your AM antenna now, but I think the
Gotcha.
Shark antenna is for satellite.
I thought it was multi going,
Yeah.
but
You ever been in
couldn't
one of
know.
those bougie cars back in the day where you hit the button and the antenna?
my
Yep.
sister had one.
Yeah.
My parents had one
So-
as well.
my sister got a Mercedes when she was like 17. It was a used car. It was like a 90-something fancy Mercedes. And I remember me and my brother used to go into the back while I was in the garage because for some reason, Mercedes, the radio was always on. You could just always turn the radio on. Every time you hit the power button of the radio, and the antenna would go up. And then when you hit the power off, it would go, we would just sit in the car just turning the radio on and off.
Watch it go up and down?
As a kid, I would tell my parents, turn the radio on. Okay, turn it off, turn it back on. Just to watch it go. And then, of course, me being an idiot, I'm like, like as like,
and then it stops working.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And then it
would
gets
stop
stuck
midway, and I'm
halfway.
just like,
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember
wasn't
my
down, then it goes back
I
up.
remember my dad coming home from work one day, and he said, "Come out to the car. Come out to the. I got to show." And my dad wasn't a radio guy, wasn't a tech guy. But he'd be like, "Come out to the car. I got to show you something." And I go out to the car, and there's this thing under the dashboard, and I'm like, "What is that?" It's a reverb. It's a reverb, and I used to like to play with it.
Yeah.
And if you turned it up, it sounded like you were in frickin' Howe Cavern somewhere. It was really. And my dad used to like to listen to like talk shows and stuff like WOR, and I think Wins was already doing the all news thing. And I would like turn the reverb on during all news.
Like those old Powerballs. And now.
Actually, sounded pretty cool.
That's wild.
I love and hate reverb because I think it's a great waveform manipulation that makes a lot of people sound good.
Mhm.
I unfortunately think it makes a lot of people sound good that don't sound good. So they hear the reverb and they're like, "Oh wow, I sound great." That's because you're harmonizing with yourself. When then you put it over something that has the right notes and it sounds terrible again. So when I was going through singing lessons, they were always like, "Whatever you do, don't practice singing in the shower." And I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "Because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You'll harmonize with yourself, think you sound good, and you will train your voice to sing in the wrong pitch."
I got into a shouting match a few years ago because my wife and I are both church singers.
Mm.
You know, she plays guitar and sings, and I just sing. And I had put in a reverb on my mic channel. And it wasn't it wasn't turned up all the way, but it was just
tasteful
enough.
reverb.
Just a little,
Yeah.
just a little tiny bit.
And the sound guy came out, and he's like, "What the hell is that?"
Satanas.
He's like, "I'm looking all over for where this is coming from, and it's not coming from my board. What did you do?" And I'm like, "I have a reverb on the mic." "What?" And he's like, "I want that off. I want that off. That is such a cheap effect. Turn that. I want that off." And I'm like,
Just coming from the guy that plays the organs.
and I'm like, "No, he's just the sound guy. He was just the sound guy."
You live on reverb.
Do you sign my paycheck?
And
No?
I said
that
to
way.
him, "Wait a minute. I'm the singer. Okay? I'm the artist.
The talent, if you will.
Talent, if you will. I think I have a say in this." He said, "No, you don't." And we just got into this huge shouting match.
Okay, then you can walk away and I'll run the board better than you.
Yeah, and I, finally I just said, "Okay, fine." It's like they say, pick your battles.
Yeah.
And I knew I was not going to win this. So now it's like, okay, fine. Fine. But I actually think I had 2 fights with him over there because I think I let it cool off for a while.
Then you put it
and
back?
then I snuck it back in. And it was a few weeks before he caught it. But then when he did, it was like, another battle royal. So
Yeah.
now I'm
Well,
just
that's when
like,
you bring it back. Be like, it's been here for like a month.
Yeah.
You didn't even notice
You
it.
didn't notice.
Now all of a sudden it's a problem.
I was like, every recording that you hear on radio, anytime somebody appears on a TV show and they're singing, I'm like, there's always a little bit of reverb.
Always.
Why? Because it makes it sound better. Okay. And judiciously used, it makes the singer sound better. "Oh, no, it's a cheap effect. I won't have it." And so finally, I just put my arms up and I said, "Okay, we're done."
That was like one of the 2 knobs that I always had to change when my parents were doing karaoke. And even now, my dad, they sing out. So my parents, if you're ever out in like the Monmouth County / a little lower, and you see Who Are You Guys? That's my parents' band.
Oh, okay.
They
Remember
just,
the time I accidentally ran into your dad at like a bar and grill?
it just happens.
I think that is so cool that your parents had a band.
It's my dad. Well, he's in 2 now because
Have.
he's retired.
Have.
So his one is a singing group.
That is so cool.
So they play with backtracks and then they sing over it, and that's Who Are You Guys? They started out as in like a pizza place or whatever that had like music playing, and they started singing. And then people came up to him and they were like, "Who are you guys? You guys sound great." And they were like, "Who are you guys? That's who we are."
That is so cool. 'Cause my dad was a wonderful man, but my dad was a tire salesman. He sold big tires to trucking companies, and he didn't sing. He sold tires. And my mom, I just remember her walking around the house in a house dress or a muumuu or something with curlers in her hair and doing housework. And I cannot begin to imagine my mom or dad in a band.
So my dad was.
I think that's so
my dad was
cool.
always in bands. Like when I was younger, he was always in rock bands. He played the drums. He'd been playing since he was like 9 or something. So he always played the drums, and then he always liked singing. But all the bands he was in, like, no, you're the drummer. You don't sing.
That's because they're the hardest people to find.
Yeah, you play the drums. You don't sing. He's like, I could do both. They're like, no, you play the drums. So he never
Sit
sang.
down, Phil Collins. It's okay.
So he didn't sing until they started doing the karaoke thing, and that was a basement thing, and then it grew and grew and grew, and then they started singing out at like these random places, and then all of a sudden the crew that was karaoke turned into this thing where they were booking shows in bars and grills to just sing what they did before, but now they're getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And they would take all the money at the end of the year and they go on like a fancy dinner or like a cruise like around New York or something with all like the excess money. And then they started getting like fancy equipment, and they got like now they got the Shure wireless mic setups and the whole 9. They do Bose, like the Bose sticks.
Yeah,
They got like 3 of them, and now they're like way too big. And I run a website for them. They put like their dates up for like their tours, and then my dad fully retired.
Can you say that a little bit more condescending?
Tours?
There you go.
Yeah. So and then
Really drive it home.
and
Complete
then,
with
yeah, and then they started doing. Now that he's retired, a bunch of other people in the retirement community thing started a band, and they were like, "Oh, you sing and you play drums? Perfect. Do both of those things here." So now he's in another band called Frog Jam, and now they're
great name.
yeah, and now they're going around
Yeah.
and doing shows and stuff. So I'm like, you're retired now. You're doing more work now than you were when you like weren't retired. But he's having a good time. So now I'm dealing with all his audio stuff on top of my audio stuff, and I was like, if you want to record stuff, boy, do I have equipment.
that is so cool, though. I just can't imagine my folks in a band. I would have paid good money to see that.
It's weird when you're like, it's like they always do the New Year's in one of the places. So like, you want to come for New Year's? We're playing the show. It's like, that's weird. But they do the whole countdown. My uncle is the MC. So he walks around and he gets involved with like the people, whoever's eating and drinking, and
Yeah.
it's wild to watch. You're like, what? I know all of these people. They used to do this hammered in someone's basement.
Used to wake me up.
Yeah, wake me up. I couldn't go to sleep.
I wish my parents were happy that I was in a band. I think my mom pretended that she was happy that I was in a band, but Kaz hated that I was in a band. I used to get yelled at for taking too many water bottles to band practice.
You get one.
A direct quote: "I'm not here to fund your water addiction." I don't know if you want to add that to the list of dumbest things you've ever heard, but it's up there. But no, he did not like. I was in the basement practicing singing, practicing guitar. He hated that. So
My
I did
mom
it a
wanted
lot.
me to be a doctor or a lawyer because I used to be down in the basement, always playing with the stereo. And a couple of times I knocked the electricity off in the house.
Oops.
And my mother would say to me, "What are you doing down there, Peter? I don't like you playing with wires down there. I don't like you playing with wires down there." And I don't know. What are you making these tapes for? You're pretending you're on the radio. What are you making these tapes for? Why don't you be a doctor? Be a lawyer. Those are the guys with all the money. What do you do? I don't think she ever really got it. You know, what I was trying to do. She
Yeah.
actually blamed me for the big blackout in 65. I'll never forget. I was downstairs. You know, I was downstairs playing with my radio stuff. And she comes to the top of the stairway and she's like, Peter, come up here. So I go upstairs and she's like, there's something wrong with the television. I got no picture. My mom's from Brooklyn, in case you didn't figure that out. And so I look at the TV and I'm like 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and it's all nothing. Snow, white noise. And I go 3, 6, 10, 12. There's television. So I said, Mom, power's out at the Empire State Building. New York is blacked out. And she says to me, what the hell did you do down there?
That's a wonderful moment.
Actually blame me for the blackout in 65.
Phil in our chat goes, turns on the radio, knocks out the entire East Coast grid.
It's a strong radio I got down here. 7 whole watts.
It reminds me of the time I was babysitting Everett when my mom was doing somebody's hair. And my mom was a hairdresser, professional. And my little brother Everett's very accident prone. He's very, very goofy. So he's doing like somersaults or front flips or something while I'm watching him. And I'm watching him roll around the living room and then bang, head right into the TV wall unit. And he starts crying. My mom runs upstairs, sees me looking at him. He's laying on the floor, like howling, looks at me and goes, what did you do? And I was like, I didn't fucking do anything.
Yeah, we just hide that. We used to beat up my brother, me and my sister. And then when he went to yell, we would just cover his mouth and be like, shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up right now. If you yell, this happens worse. You shut up.
I am just
35 seconds till Dad gets up here. And those are going to be a painful 35 seconds, Frankie.
I am just finding out now from my kids, and my elder son is 43, I think, 42, 43. My daughter just turned 41. My younger son is 35. I am just finding out now the shit that they did, especially the younger one. You know, we have them over like last Christmas Eve, the whole family is together, and my younger one is like, and what about the time that you guys poured gasoline on me and set me on fire? What? And
wait, is that hyperbole or their words?
It's hyperbole.
Okay.
And Maureen and I are like, what?
Yeah, that happens in our family now. Like the stories are starting to trickle out.
And where were we when all this was going down? That's what I want to know.
Well, because when your youngest is around our age.
Yeah.
I'm about to be 33. So
I hate you.
So my parents, I'm sure you were similar, was just go outside and play.
Yeah.
Go. Well, we did. But they never knew how far we went or what we did until Nextel was a thing. And then we would be everywhere. You hear blip, blip. Where are you? School, Mom. And now I'm going to the principal's office.
Yeah, I remember the one big time I got in trouble for like fucking with my brother. He was still in a stroller. We were in Disney, and apparently it was my job to push my brother in the stroller. We're going up and over a bridge, and I let go.
So I threw him right off the bridge.
And I let him. He was strapped in the stroller, and I just let him go down the hill.
Just let him go.
And my mom starts screaming at me. What would you? I'm like, it looked like he'd have fun.
He wanted to ride a ride.
Houston, gravity check positive.
The best, though, is my dad was in a mobility scooter. So he just turns the speed up and just books it after him. So here's this guy in a mobility scooter flying after a toddler in a stroller. They still don't let me live that down. Every time I bring it up. Or every time I bring up Disney, like, oh, remember the time? I'm like, yes.
Remember the time you almost killed your brother?
Yeah, I remember.
I did.
Yeah, no, our Disney trip was, I was terrified of roller coasters. Terrified. And then their idea was, well, we'll just put you on the biggest one there is.
That's called immersion therapy, buddy.
And then you'll be fine. So they took me to the Hulk.
Oh, no.
You know, the one that launches you at like 60 miles an hour through a tube that you can't see anything because then it goes down. So I was like,
Immersion therapy.
yeah. They were like, it'll be fine. I'm like, it's not going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. I'm going to probably die. And it's your fault. So when the cops come, let everybody around here, if I die, her fault. And I'm like, 11. Like, this is, and they shot me through the thing, and I was yelling my goddamn head off. And then, like, halfway through, I was like, and then I hit like every roller coaster around.
You know, I've never been on a roller coaster.
Really?
Never.
Really?
I'm terrified.
I have a picture of.
I am terrified. I have that. My wife says, and she's probably right. She says I'm a control freak,
Okay.
and of course, you cannot control a roller coaster.
You can't
and-
once. You press the button.
And so I won't. It's like if I start to feel panicky, I want to be able to get off. Which is not a good idea on a roller coaster.
Again, once.
You know, yeah. So I've never.
It is
I
not
won't-
advisable.
Yeah, I've never been on a roller coaster. My daughter, we went to Six Flags,
Yeah.
and she was young. Well, younger. I'm sorry, Kim. Did Dad just say I'm old? When she was a kid, I think she was like in her teens, and she wanted to go on the what do they call it? The
Was it Nitro?
Buccaneer
Oh, the swinging ship ride.
swinging ship ride,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it. And I wound up going on the Buccaneer pirate ship. Isn't that what it is? The
Yeah.
Buccaneer pirate ship, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
It's
I-
gone now.
You,
I
you
get
worked
it.
there,
Well,
so
good.
you're the
I'm
best.
glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Because I get on this thing and it starts getting to maximum swing, and I damn near ripped off my daughter's arm, gripping her arm. I can't do rides.
I have the exact opposite opinion. I have trust in the engineering that goes behind them. So anything new and modern that's been up for a while, I'm fine with. But I won't go on new things. So I worked at Six Flags when they constructed and tested King Ka.
Okay.
And the first time they shot that off down the track, all the test dummies came back down with no heads. Because it out-G'd them on the acceleration.
Oh my God.
So
Sure, it was fine.
rounds of testing later, we're all standing by the ride on opening day as people take like the first ride, and I'm like, all right, if you catch anything, and
Just so you know, the test dummies came back decapitated. Have a good time.
I got in trouble for telling people that too.
I found it.
Anyway, they like after the first couple runs, I was like, okay, this is fine, and it would break down every now and then, but not in a way that was like a ride danger. The launch mechanism would break, and then they'd have to go like reset a belt or something like that. But nothing at a park like Six Flags would scare me enough to not ride it. If you're talking like carnival rides,
Oh
fuck
no.
that.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah, those are
I will not
terrifying.
touch a carnival ride.
So I have here a picture of the first and only time my wife has ever gone on a roller coaster. She, first of all, I paid full price for that fucking photo, laughing as I handed him my credit card. So sorry, I'm gonna show it. And
She says in the chat, never again.
so she actually came off the roller coaster shaking, laughing maniacally. I'm like, you good? She's like, yeah, because I never have to do that again. Ever, ever, ever. So here is the picture. It's next to me having a good old time.
Oh my.
That is the eyes of pure terror.
Pure terror.
She's not a strong woman. That hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bullshit. She helped me lift a hutch.
She's got little noodle arms. But yeah, that was a good time. I paid full price for that picture. Everyone was laughing. The lady who was giving me the picture was laughing. She's like, "What size do you want?" I was like, "What's the biggest one you got?"
All of them.
Can you send me the file? I have a poster printer.
I didn't at the time, or I would have. I might blow that up anyway. But yeah, that's,
Do you have a billboard size that I can put in front of the house?
I have.
if you need, I have a 42-inch billboard printer in the basement. Someone was giving it away because he thought it was broken. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And then it literally just needed like lubricant on the rod and a new yellow cartridge. It's like a $1,500 printer.
The worst shot I've ever gotten of myself on a ride when I was like, I think it was 16. I went to wherever Tower of Terror is.
Disney.
Is it Disney?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I think I might have the same picture as you in that case.
They take a picture of you right as you drop at the top floor. However, gravity managed to warp my face, and I say this with no disrespect towards these people at all. It actually looked like I had Down syndrome. The exact right facial, everything. And my fucking mom bought the picture, put it on the mantle.
She would.
And that is still there in Kaz's house.
I want to go get that picture. There's going to be a little beanie in your house. Or your stepdad's
Little
house.
light beanie. Remember, he's got cameras watching everything. My stepdad's,
That means nothing.
he's not great.
I have
Very neurotic.
I have a paintball gun.
I think I have the same picture as your wife with that from Tower of Terror. I hate dropping rides. Hate dropping rides.
So that was her big issue. Was the drop, like when you feel everything.
Oh yeah.
That was, and for me, that's my favorite part.
I like it in the car.
She hates it. She hates it everywhere. There's no place where that is good for her.
I think one of the reasons why I don't really like going on rides is working in radio, we get access to like media days and things like that.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many media days I've gone to for rides at theme parks where the ride breaks down as I'm about to get on it. And that's when I sit around and say, no, I'm not doing this.
See, those are the best, because like when I used to work there, when a ride breaks down, that's when you get on the line.
Mhm.
People don't realize the ride only stays broken down for like 15 minutes.
Unless it's Superman.
That's true. When Superman goes down, it goes down all day. But like King Ka, it would most commonly break down because it would slip the drive belt off the pulley. And it was actually a safety mechanism so it didn't break the belt and tangle it all up in the gears. And then you got to replace the whole motor, and voila, you're down for weeks and your park's losing money. So it'd break down, everybody like, oh, and then get off the line. And you'd move way up to the front. And then 15 minutes later, engineer's there, slips the belt back on. They do a test fire, and then the ride starts going again. The only coaster in the park that's not like that is Superman.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but when that thing breaks, it fucking
It's
breaks.
usually right coming off the first, like you go down, there's like this first little, right there, stuck. And the worst part about Superman is that you get on this way, and then it brings you to a Superman pose. So when you get stuck, you're stuck sideways. And it usually gets stuck at the first bank. So you're stuck sideways, head down. So I've gotten stuck on there for like 35 minutes. And I'm like, guess who has a headache now?
I was there for the Joker Media Day. And as we're about to get on the ride,
That's the new one, right?
it's the new one where like the car
Oh, spins.
but like the vehicle stays on the track.
God, that looks fun.
A couple people were waiting in like the queue to like get into the station to get off the ride. A couple people were sitting there and they realized, wait, we can rock back and forth in this.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
They were able to rock back and forth in this to the point where they were basically upside down. Then the car started moving to go back into the station. We heard a very loud grinding noise. Guess who was stuck upside down in the station? And all the ride operators were like, how did you do this? And that was, and I'm like, no, I'm not getting on this. If, the host that I was with wanted to, they can go for it, but I am not riding.
Let me tell you how little self-preservation instinct I have when it comes to like things in motion. Allie, my wife, most recently had been completely taken aback by this statement. We just flew back and forth to Hawaii. On the way back, we hit a lot of turbulence. I'm fine with it. She loses her shit. We land. She's shaken up. She's annoyed. I'm trying to comfort her. She's like, I can't believe you're not like also pissed off. And I looked at her with a straight face and I said, babe, airplane rides are pretty boring. I actually like a little bit of turbulence. It feels like a roller coaster. She went, you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, I thought there would be
At
more.
35,000 feet.
Hey, listen.
This is the last thing I want to be experiencing.
If I die, it's only my problem for like, I don't know, 60 seconds while we fall, and then it's all over anyway. Who the fuck cares?
You might as well have fun with it. We have a lot going on in the chat. So Phil says my worst RC picture is from SeaWorld. There is a ride there that tilts forward like a Superman ride does, and I got a Charlie horse, and my painted face is now somewhere at my parents' house. And then 4 a.m. Watch says I have climbed mountains. I have almost fell off a mountain, but that roller coaster was the most scared I've been in my whole life. That feeling when it goes up and your body feels like it could be keep flying in the air, awful, truly awful. So, a lot of people who don't like roller coasters in the chat.
You know what's funny? I've ridden in a NASCAR race car at Daytona, 170 miles an hour, right next to the wall.
But those
God, I want to do that.
Sounds
so
like
bad.
another day on the Garden State Parkway, really.
Exactly.
during COVID.
But don't put me in a roller coaster.
Well, yeah, roller coasters go up and down. The only time you go up and down on NASCAR is when you hit a bump. Like
And that's not normally something you want to do at 180 miles an hour.
So I did that once, not 80 or not 180 because my car didn't go that fast. But I was doing like a $145, and I remember hitting a bump, going, being airborne for longer than what I'd imagined I should have been, and then the car going guh and feeling my stomach go up and down, and me going, break time. It's brakes time. And I stepped on the brakes.
Was that the parkway or the racetrack?
It was a random
What's the
fucking
difference?
road, which makes it even more dangerous.
Oh my.
Yeah,
I-
it was
I
all-
s-
Jackson somewhere.
I sate my need for speed with the fact that my car accelerates insanely fast.
Mm.
I don't
It
go.
does.
I don't go like 120 miles an hour. I almost never even get close to like 90.
Mm.
My
live
my
at 90.
cruising speed's like 85 at the most.
Yeah.
I've gone 100 in my current car once. It was downhill on a 6-lane highway, and that was the speed of traffic. I don't like doing that because your margin for error is so small. You're around other people. I don't want to be the reason somebody never sees their kid again. So that's fine. But my car goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and that's a lot of fun.
See,
You have
my,
a Tesla?
Yeah.
see, my Jeep.
Ludicrous mode?
I have a Model 3 Performance, but I convinced my uncle to get the ludicrous Model S. So his goes 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds.
Jeez.
We actually calculated it. Mine does 0.8 G pushing you back. His does 1.2 G pushing you
Wow.
Yeah, and here my Jeep caps at 105. I found that out during COVID.
back.
And I drive a Chevy Impala.
I was like, I want to get to work as fast as I can, and my car was like, bah, bah. And I was like,
Dude.
no, there's more. I could feel
Bob,
it.
you can make a Chevy Impala fuck. You know that, right?
Oh, I totally
That's a
could.
big, mostly empty engine bay.
There's a lot of room.
You LS swap that bitch, and you've got a fucking Camaro.
That's the SS.
yeah.
No, that's the
please-
Impala SS.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Please don't give me ideas to void my warranty.
We're giving you ideas.
Do it.
That goes back to last week where we were talking about the friggin' Legends cars, and I figured out how cheap they were. And I was like, no. So Legends cars are like race only cars. It's like a 34 Ford body with just like a roll bar. That's pretty much it. It's a motorcycle
And a
engine.
fiberglass body.
Yeah.
One piece, basically.
Big go-kart.
Big go-kart.
Yeah.
And I found out that they're like $17,000 ready to go, and all the parts are like $100 a season to like just replace. And I was like, oh no.
And
And they race at wall.
And they race it while they're right around the corner. I'm like,
Sounds like so much fun.
I was like, damn it, this is gonna be a problem. So oh no, we had a chat. What did I say? I don't know why I'm not scared of driving fast, but roller coasters are a no-go. I think that goes back to the whole
It's the illusion of control.
control.
Yeah, the car you can slow it down, you can brake.
Mhm.
Roller coaster,
No worry.
you're trusting the engineering.
Yeah.
You're trusting the engineering on a roller coaster, but in a car,
You're also trusting the
the
engineering.
problem with vehicles and like anything, not just cars, but like motorcycles and anything like that, you think you have control until you overcome the coefficient of static friction between your tire and the road,
Yeah.
and then you have no fucking
Yeah,
control.
nothing works on ice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I found that out back in when I was 18 on Route 18. They decided there was early morning snow, and instead of salting the roads, they'd put police every 200 yards in the middle lane to just give people tickets as they caused accidents. So I was driving in
Fucking
my
New Jersey.
piece of shit Sentra that was front wheel drive,
I remember that
disc
car.
brake in the front, drums in the back, so it's already starting at a disadvantage here.
Yeah.
And I remember the lady in front of me had a Ford Explorer. The fucking thing was huge. And I tapped on my brakes because she tapped on her brakes. And then I felt my car just like pause for a second and then start accelerating. And I was like, no, that's not right. And I like tapped on the brakes again. And I was like, we're a bobsled. We're bobsledding. So like I actively turned my hazards on. And at this point, I'm just like, where we land, we land. And I remember tapping the front of her car, like tapping.
Yeah.
And I remember her Explorer going off to the left lane, spinning around. We make direct eye contact. I'm like,
something has gone awry.
I'm like 18. She was like 24. She makes direct eye contact, terrified, and I go, I don't know. I got nothing.
So,
and then she spins back around and then goes into the friggin' shoulder. My car finally slows off into a ditch over here. And I just left the hazards on. I just got out of the car. I'm like, yeah,
that's enough of that.
And I walked over to her and I'm like, you good? She's like, yeah, I'm good. Are you good? And I'm like, well, there's another hole in my front bumper that I literally just replaced from the last time I tapped something. Cause it's a piece of shit. It was like, I hit her trailer hitch. So nice, perfect 2x2 square. And I'm like, are you good? Is everything? She's like, it was terrifying, but like, I'm fine. She looks at the car and I'm like, you're not gonna have damage. That can't do damage. It's plastic. Like the whole car's plastic. So we drove our separate way right before a cop pulled up. She's like, I don't want to get you in trouble. That's terrible. It's not your fault. I stepped on the brakes first. There was no one in front of me. That's on me. Blah, blah, blah. And we left. But I that's like one of the few times that I've had like ice problems.
Jackson is notorious for that because their road, like they have so much road and they have such a small maintenance crew. If you're in Jackson, New Jersey, and you get like a ice or sleet or snowstorm or anything, you will not have a thawed road until the fucking weather decides that you will have a thawed road. And the only time I've ever actually slid into a dangerous situation on ice was coming around a turn in Jackson towards a main intersection. And this is like at 3 p.m. and it's still covered in snow. And I thought I was going slow enough at like 25 miles per hour to not make that an issue. My car decided it was. And I came around the turn and went to straighten out, and the car just like started doing this very slow turn to the left while I was still going straight towards the intersection. And I have a red light. So I hazards on, I start slamming on the horn like beep, 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 like that, like as hard as I can, as fast as I can. And people got the message. So the two cars coming from the other way stopped because I guess they were heavier. I was in like a Scion TC, and I just slid sideways through the intersection, beep, 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 so people would know that I couldn't stop.
Yeah, just wave.
And then I got onto the other side of the intersection, just slowly ground to a halt when it started to go to a little incline. And I was like, cool, that was fucking terrifying.
I can't say how many times over the years in the wintertime when we're having a storm, in the course of the traffic report, I will tell people, folks, I don't care what you're driving. I don't care what kind of tires you have. Nothing works on ice.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember I was in Plainfield, New Jersey, going to work. I was working for a little radio station there. And it was snowing, and I'm doing the morning show. And that was like 6 a.m., and I'm coming in at like 5:30. And I'm going down Park Avenue, which is the main drag in Plainfield. And I hit some ice or something, and the car starts spinning. You want to talk about terrifying, and you're trying to right yourself, and you can't.
Yeah.
The car is just into a spin, and I was just like, please, God, get me through this. And it spun around like maybe 2-3 times, just kept spinning. And I'm like, oh my God, when does this stop? and it finally like bumped the curb and it stopped. But terrifying.
Oh yeah.
So that when I got my Acura, I used to go into like empty parking lots when it started snowing and tried to like basically control spin to try to figure out like how does this vehicle handle, what happens in the snow, what happens in the ice, just to do like some been practicing just in case it happens, because I get hit a lot, which Phil decided to bring up in the chat. People like to hit me while I'm stopped at red lights,
Joe has never caused a car accident.
other than the one I just talked about.
That's different. The weather caused the car
I would
accident.
blame Mother Nature on that accident. Thank you very much.
I also have never caused a car accident. We have both been hit combined like 20 times.
Yeah, so the one he's talking about, well, my mom used to drive a red H3 Hummer, like the fire engine red. Yeah. The first time I got hit real bad, I got the back of my bumper like got destroyed. She flew down Route 18. You know where the hospital is? Right on Ferry Road.
Mm-hmm.
I got hit at that light. So my mom came fucking... I've never seen my mom drive that fast. To the point where the police that were with her, when she went to go like take the Yui, was like, slow, like bring it on down. And that was hilarious. The second time I got hit, I don't even remember where I was. I was working as an IT consulting company. So they sent me up to like Bumblefuck, New Jersey, and I was up there. And I remember stopping in the rain, and then a Ford Explorer hit the back of my car, and my car turned into an airplane and hit the F-250 in front of me. I had an Altima. Small car,
Yeah.
2 giant trucks. Call my mom, explain what happens. I was like 19 or 20. And on the way up, it's like an hour drive. I get in the accident.
She makes it there in 24 minutes.
Right in front of a Hooters. So I was like, well, wings. But the police come and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, surprisingly fine. Why? And they're like, that accident, you should be in an ambulance. What happened? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh, probably what's in my trunk. Oh, fuck the trunk. I have subwoofers in my car at the time. Ran to the back of the car. The trunk is like a sardine can, like rolled up. And my subwoofer box, sawdust. It was like inch thick MDF, sawdust. The titanium subwoofers were snapped. And the Kevlar was like torn, and the cop was like, "Those are the reason that he isn't in the back of your car." And I was like, "Jeez, my mom's gonna be here in about 40 minutes. Could you just word for word say that again?
Yeah.
Because she hates these goddamn things. She never complained again, ever. Every time I got a subwoofer, she was just like, "Oh, good, you're putting those in the car again. Just lower it when you get near the house."
Do you remember the place where you had your very first car accident?
Yeah.
Yep.
Namoko Road.
They
in
always say,
Jackson.
you never forget your first one.
Yeah, that was Ferry Road.
Namoko Road in Jackson is a very nice, slow grazing road, except for one point where it does a 90-degree turn in the middle of the fucking woods. And there's no signs indicating that. I was late for school. I was driving the green Pontiac Grand Am that my grandmother gave me when I turned 18. And I'm going through the woods, and my buddy is in like a garage race spec old boxy BMW, and he's just ripping it, right? But he's got like racing tires on it. He really he's into cars. I am driving a stock 6-cylinder Pontiac.
Goddamn Continentals.
Small, but the nose is enormous on the old Grand Ams. So I'm trying to keep up with him, and I'm late. I'm like, we're already past homeroom, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta get there. And I'm like, whatever, this road's not too bad. And we hit that turn, and he goes around it sideways, and I also go around it sideways, but I didn't cut the wheel back fast enough. So I went all the way around the 90, and then before I could get the wheel all the way back around, I shot off into the woods and hit this massive tree, bounced off it, did like 540 back into the road facing the other way. And the whole engine bay is like crumpled in so far that I could probably lay down in it, like with my knees up. And it actually jammed the front so hard that I could barely open the driver door. I had to like kick it open. I got out of the car. I coughed out a bunch of airbag smoke, and I see my friend screech to a halt because right after the turn's a huge straightaway. And then the lady behind me like helps me off the road, and the cops come, and I'm like, fucking, I can't believe I just wrecked my car. What the fuck? the whole road is lined with trees the entire way. You can't see around any of the turns. So once you hit that 90, you're done. Like if you're going even the speed limit, is I was going fast, but I wasn't going like 80 on a back road. I was going like maybe 55 and a 45. And I'm like, this can't be safe. Like that can't all be me. I get it. I was driving too fast. 3 of my friends my senior year destroyed their cars on that turn. My buddy Mike was driving an 89 Trans Am and hit that turn, did the same thing I did and rolled it 4 times into the woods, trashed. A girl the year before me died on that fucking turn. Like it just like notorious. And then I tell my parents all this, blah, blah, blah. My stepdad the next day drives me back to where I hit the tree, gets out, picks my headlight up off the side of the road, gets back in the car and throws it in my lap and drives home. That was my first accident. So not only did I fucking demolish my car and almost kill myself, my stepdad decided to just rub it in my face a little bit.
I wonder how many people actually have the footage of their first accident like I do. So I have a dash cam. I've always had dash cams in my car and all that. My first ever accident, I was leaving work. I was working for a very small AM station over in Levittown, WBCB. And I made a right out of the station. It's in a house, in a neighborhood. Made a right out and came to a light. Made my right green, on the green light. And this person pulls out of a gas station because the person on the opposite side of traffic told them, "Oh, come on out." I was still driving. They pulled out right in front of me. I have all the footage of the wreck and all that kind of stuff. I was not very happy, and you can hear it in the audio. And it was all because they made me change my schedule from going to one event or from one show to a different show, and I never would have left at that time had they not changed my shift. And I was the program director, and I was the one in charge, and like, "No, you can't do this one." I'm like, come on.
My first wreck, pardon me, my first wreck was on the Route 9 Edison Bridge. It was a 5-car pileup. I was number 3.
At least you didn't start it.
Right in the middle. I was on my way to college because I was a commuter student. I didn't live on campus. And I'm driving up to class from Madison Park here. And I'm going up Route 9.
Thank you for the follow.
And for some reason, the car in front stopped. Jammed on the brake. I don't know why he stopped or jammed on the brake. The car behind him slammed into him. I slammed into that car. And then 2 cars behind me. Boom, boom. Right? So 5 cars. Thank God everybody was okay. I think I got bruised. I think my nose or something got bruised and my face, I kind of face planted into the wheel. But that was, I think, the worst I got. Everybody otherwise was okay. And the car, because I don't think everybody was traveling at full speed. I think there was damage on the car. I think more in the back than in the front for some reason. And they were able to fix it, and it looked good as new when they were done with it. But I was driving my dad. My dad had a Plymouth Duster.
Wow!
Remember the Plymouth Duster?
Yeah.
And he said, use this to go to college. I didn't have a car at that time, and he said, I'm not going to need it. I'm retired. Where the hell am I going? And I wrecked the car.
Oh boy!
And I thought, oh God, Pop's going to kill me. But thank God he was like, "You're okay. That's all that matters. The car I can replace. You can fix it. You can replace. I can't replace you." So he was really good. But that first crash was on the Route 9 Edison Bridge.
That's funny.
Wow.
My first accident was not Ferry Road. I got sideswiped by a limo driver on Route 9 in Freehold. I remember driving. I had my windows down, was blasting music because I just got subs in my car. And then I just remember hearing a noise and then feeling my side view mirror in my lap. And me going, huh? And then the limo driver tried to just go. I was like, "Oh, the fuck you are."
That happened to me.
And I stopped and I called the cops and the cops came and I was like, he sideswiped me. He broke. I was holding my side view mirror, and then he tried to drive away.
Here's the evidence.
Yeah,
I've
and-
got it.
So the limo says it was my fault, and I obviously said it was his fault. And the cop was like, "Well, how do we know it's his fault?" I'm like, "Go look at the broken everything on the line, and you will notice that it is inside of my lane." It's pretty easy to evidence this. But the guy fell off the curb while he was talking to the cop.
Oh.
And the cop was like, "Sir, are you okay? Do we need to take a breathalyzer? Is everything like?" And then he started questioning. And then the guy rolled down the window. I guess he had someone in the back of the car.
You need to take a breath.
And he's like, "Sir, I know what happened." And the cop was like, "Window up or you're going to have a problem." And I was like, "I'm going to go sit down now. It seems like you guys got everything under control."
I got hit recently. I was on the way to my boss's
Oh my God.
dad's funeral in a suit and tie, driving on the George Washington Bridge.
They were not.
What?
Chat.
Yeah, chat was saying, were they driving someone important or was it like prom?
So I'm on the George Washington Bridge, lower level. I'm in the middle lane. Someone's driving slow in front of me. I look to the left. Nobody's back in the left lane, so I just pull past them, start driving past them. This fucking minivan from the right lane comes whipping it like a bat out of hell, passes the guy. I guess he might have been behind me and then went right, like passing on the right like you're not fucking supposed to do. When I went left, he comes and he passes the car like here, and then just all the way across 3 lanes and just fucking wails me.
You might have been
Yeah,
reporting
you
that.
might have reported that.
Very good possibility.
But he hits me, right? And he's pushing me. Like he's going into me and I'm
Yeah.
turning against him and pushing him back. And I smell my wheel grinding against his quarter panel. And eventually I slam on the brakes and stop because he's like trying to push me into the left wall. And he starts driving away. And I was like, "Dude, you're in a Dodge Caravan and I'm in a Performance EV. You're not going anywhere." So he books it. And I'm like, I push on the gas a little bit. I'm like, "All right, do I still have a wheel?" And I didn't even get like a low tire pressure light. So I was like, "Okay, good." And I just shot after him. I get up right behind him. And then he finally hits like a wall of traffic in front of him and slows down and then rolls his window down and like points to like get off at the next exit. So we pull off. I'm following him. I already have 911 on the phone. I'm like, "I'm on the GWB. I haven't gotten off yet." "Okay, wait, no. Like I caught him and now he's getting off." I tell them what exit I get off. And they're like, "We don't know where that is." And I'm like, "It's a fucking number. It's the only one numbered that on the bridge. How do you not know where that is?" She goes, "You're going to have to get me across street." I'm like, "Fine." And I zoom in on my GPS and I'm like, "Okay, it's the corner of this and this." Cop rolls up, goes, "Oh, sorry. We're only bridge cops. You're going to have to call. Now that you're off the bridge, you got to call somebody else." And I'm like, "So call them. You're the police.
Yeah.
You know where I'm supposed to call." And they're like, "All right, I'll call dispatch and have them send somebody. Pull under there." They sat me waiting in I think it was a Port Authority bus terminal under the GWB for like 45 fucking minutes and nobody showed up. So I called the Port Authority. Oh no, that's what it was. They sent city cops, not bridge cops. They had to be bridge cops because it happened on the bridge. They sent bridge cops down in 5 minutes after I called them. And they went, "Oh, nobody told us you guys were there. Hang on. We'll be right there. We have somebody in the area." And the cop gets out. He's like, "What happened?" I was like, "This fucking dipshit." And I just blow up. Like, he can hear me. And I'm like, "This fucking dumb motherfucker sideswiped me on the fucking bridge." And I'm like losing my mind. Because, again, this is the 4th time my car's been hit. I've never hit anybody. I've only had it 4 years. It was 44 months at that point that I owned the car.
1 year.
Yeah. So 2 were while I was stopped, first of all. This is the first one where I've been hit in motion.
Hey, you're 1 out of 365. I think your odds are pretty good.
So
It's not bad.
And like, so the cop hears my whole thing and he goes, "Wow, sounds like you're having a bad day." I was like, "I really am." The other guy didn't contest it. He was just like,
Yeah, I
he's
did
like,
that.
"Yeah, whoops."
Whoops, my bad.
And then the best part, I forgot to tell you, when we get to the first intersection where I pull off the bridge, he gets out of his car and he's walking towards my car, and I crack the window down a little bit, and before he even says anything, I go, "Get back in your fucking car!" And so it was just, I didn't know what he was going to do. Like, this dude hit me like he had intent. and then was like power walking towards my car, and he just spins around and goes back. I was like, what the fuck? What am I experiencing right now?
So I think, judging by the chat, I think I know who this is now. Because, you know, how many people do you know who got hit by a car and needed 3 surgeries on their spinal cords?
I feel like that circle
What?
is very small.
That circle gets very small. I believe that is the owner of Spencer's car.
Oh, the turd.
The turd.
The
I
turd
believe,
owner.
I believe this is the turd owner.
We have a friend who has a 2003 Volkswagen GTI.
Oh, they said nope.
Nope. Really?
Wow.
Oh,
Our one friend Spencer decided one day he got a new car, so he said, "I'm just gonna cut the roof off of this thing." So we took the Sawzall and cut the roof off of his car. He then later cut the windshield off, put in a Jeep windshield, welded
he
in a
did.
roll bar. You basically need a tetanus shot every time you get in the car because
and
it was very amateurly done.
and it's got flame decals.
But
So
it's had
we
those.
call it the flaming turd.
But it's been like that since high school. Those flames are aged.
yeah.
And they're very faded at this point, or at least the last I saw.
No, they're
them.
looking pretty good.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, it turns out if you polish the car ever, looks pretty good.
Who said that about the surgery? What's the username?
Dracana?
Oh, it's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Oh, it's Mike?
No, not Zuniga.
No, different Mike.
Yeah. This is the Mike from my Saturday morning D&D
Yep,
game.
because he said he remembers
The amount of people you need surgeries.
Okay, maybe that circle's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we were talking about how small that circle is.
I guess this circle's larger than I thought.
If I had a nickel, I'd have 2 nickels, which is a lot. But it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah, but it's weird that I have 2 nickels. Oh, man.
Well, I feel like that's a pretty good jumping off point for us.
I think so.
Yep.
But Pete, thank you again so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Tell us how people can listen to the Sonic Boomers podcast.
Sonic Boomers podcast is available anywhere where you can hear a podcast. And we also have the video version, which is, of course, on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And we are up to the next one will be show number 105.
Nice.
Getting up there.
Yeah.
I think this is like 6 or 7. I lost track.
Yeah.
Something
It'll be
along those lines.
3,
Somewhere around there.
December, it'll be our 3rd anniversary doing the show.
So do you do weekly? Do you do...
You know, it started out like guns blazing.
Gotta do it every week.
Every week, Monday morning, 5 a.m., the thing would drop.
Mhm.
Now it's like every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 weeks because you get to that point, and a lot of people, when they do a podcast, they go through pod fade,
Mm-hmm.
which is they just run out of gas and they stop doing it. But it usually happens somewhere in the first 6 episodes, believe it or not,
We passed it.
right?
I didn't even think we were close to that.
But
we didn't get to half the topics
You
we planned
do
today.
you
Not
do
even.
get to the point where you say, well, geez, what do we talk about this week? And a typical pre-production meeting between my wife and I, who host the show, will be, I'll be like, hey, here's a podcast. And I'll say what it is. And she'll say, nah, I don't want to do that. No, that's not. And then she'll say, what if we did this? And I'll be, nah, I'm not really into that. And so it's that rare moment when the two of us say, that's a show, that we sit down and we do something. So we have one fan who like watches every podcast, critiques every podcast. And he's like, I noticed that you're not doing a podcast every week anymore. And I'll tell you, it is a challenge to try to come up with something fresh every week, especially when you've been doing it now for almost 3 years. So yeah, there's some weeks where you're going to be a week apart, and there's other times where you're going to be 2-3 weeks apart. But I think the idea is to try to stay consistent. Just keep throwing stuff. You know, even if you don't have enough to fill a full show, like our show usually runs 25 to 30. We've got some shows that go 40, 45. I think we've had a couple that ran an hour. You know, even if you just throw something out there that's just a few minutes, just get some product out there. Just keep producing product.
Makes sense.
Yeah, most of ours go about an hour 15 or so. I just looked at our
Lately, hour 30, hour 40. But
recording time is an hour 55 right now. So we've been, you know, it's those where like, you know, we'll start talking, and next thing you know, we're like, oh, Oh,
We should end the stream. So,
But it's cool that you're doing it live.
yeah.
yeah, we do live.
We
and
haven't
then-
we haven't done that yet because I just don't have the the desire to have somebody in the chat say, "You suck."
Well, our chat thankfully has been pretty good. Nobody say it.
No, we had one earlier today giving me crap that I just ignored. My buddy John in the Total Nonstop Racing League. It's an iRacing league that I participate in. He's saying, "Oh, hey guys, no fighting. Also, Bob sucks at driving this specific car." I'm like,
I saw that.
Thanks, John.
I didn't know. What he
Kyle
meant.
called us all ugly last week.
Yeah,
you know
but
what? That is true.
yeah, but that's Kyle.
Yeah.
He was here.
He did say something earlier. I forget what he said. I know at one point he said he wanted to ask if you knew of Cast Iron Kyle, who calls into Dennis and Judy all the time. He's been on our show. He's a good friend of mine.
Great guy.
And all that sort of thing. So he had asked earlier in the chat.
So yeah, we get a lot of followings. Listen, we have like 40 something subscribers. I will throw a band down, Phil. Don't even tempt me.
In the
I know.
chat,
I know who that is.
in the chat, Graham says his first ever chat with us and another friend of ours saying, "You guys suck."
Thanks for the first comment, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're feeding us. Thanks. So yeah, we go live, and then after we go live, these get exported over to YouTube, and then we put it on every other podcast. So I guess that's a good jumping off point from us. If you guys want to hear us, or if you know anybody who wants to hear us after now, we have a Linktree/Tabletop Trio where we have 700 links to every podcast available. We got YouTube, Twitch. This will be on for like 7 days because that's just what Twitch does.
We're in all your internets.
Yeah, we're in everywhere.
All
Join
the
us on-
socials.
yeah,
There's no
socials,
escape.
Instas, Facebooks, all that good stuff.
But yeah, so for one final time, I'm Bob.
I'm Joe.
I'm Bronson.
And our special guest, Pete Torriello. Thanks again, Pete, for
Thank you,
coming
guys.
on with us. This has been Tabletop Trio. Have a great night.
Peace.